Namaste to everyone. I am Shibam from the Mahakud, a member of TED Young Thinker Academy, and today I'll be giving my very first TED Talk, and I'm super excited for it. So I'll be talking on today's theme, that is small ideas can be the next big thing. How small ideas of today can help us build the societies of tomorrow. Now, sir,
you can start.
Namaste to everyone present over here. I'm Shibam from the Mahakud, a member of Young Thinker TED group, and today I will be giving my first ever TED Talk, and I'm super excited for it. So my talk will be focused on today's theme, that is small ideas can be the next big thing, and how small ideas of today can help us build the societies of tomorrow, how it can help us build equitable and sustainable societies of the future. Before coming to my talk, I would like to introduce you to something which all of us, all human beings are heavily dependent on, something which all the living beings require for their survival, something as ordinary as food. So we know that the traditional agriculture system that provides us with food is very labor intensive, and it utilizes a lot of resources, but it is also the main occupation for a lot of people here in India. So my project will be focused on how to improve this agricultural system to make it more efficient and better suited for the future. This my talk will also revolve around this concept of agriculture. So before starting the actual project, I'll give a brief idea on what are the problems that humanity will face in the upcoming future and its impact on the agricultural system of the world. So the first problem that we'll face in future is climate change. The Earth's temperature is steadily increasing, and there are patterns of irregular rainfall around the globe. This has negatively impacted the whole agricultural system around the world. And because of this, the agricultural produce has reduced dramatically over the past few decades. And here's the interesting fact. Though climate change is negatively impacting the agricultural sector itself is one of the main drivers of climate change. It contributes nearly 30% of all the greenhouse gases that humanity has expelled into the atmosphere. So it is in a way like supporting its own demise. And the next factor that comes into play is the water scarcity. Due to this irregular rainfall and various other change in weather patterns, the water supply is very less, and it is quite less in some parts of India also. So these all factors contribute to a threat in food security, and they have disturbed the four pillars of food security, and they are availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability of the food producing systems. So now next coming on to the actual project. So I have a solution which can help us tackle this problem, and it is titled as manufacturing food from thin air. But you will ask the question, how much food do we exactly need to produce in the future? So to answer that, I have three factors which can help us determine how much exactly do we need to produce in the upcoming decades. The first factor that we need to consider is the growing human population. It is expected that the human population will reach 10 billion, that is a billion with a B, by the year 2050, and we have to produce enough food to feed this entire population. And the second factor is highest living standards. So if we observe the past years, we have seen an increase in the living standards of people around the world, and this trend is expected to continue in the future as well. So if we assume a modest economic growth, we'll have to increase our food production by 50% of the current levels to meet the future food demand. The third factor that we need to consider is the sustainable development goals. In one of the sustainable development goals is to end hunger and poverty and malnutrition. To reach that goal, we have to produce more food. So combining all these three factors, we have calculated that humanity will need to produce twice the amount of food that we produce today by the year of 2050, so as to meet the demand of food in that time. So how do we produce this extra amount of food? The answer is my project, that is manufacturing food from thin air. It is a concept of microbial cell protein or single cell protein production, which uses certain bacteria and single celled organisms to produce food using certain inorganic raw materials such as thin air, carbon dioxide and hydrogen from the atmosphere, and certain other minerals which can be sourced from other sources. So how did I get this inspiration to work on this idea? So it all starts with a NASA report that I was reading. This report was published in the year 1960s, and it was titled the Closed Life Support System. So in this report, 9 groups of researchers at NASA, they had worked on this project, and they had published 9 different research papers, each on a certain topic which was related to how waste materials in outer space can be utilized to produce breathable air, clean water and food for the astronauts that will go into space. So this was a trial experiment just to verify the proof of concept that if this can be possible. And the NASA scientists, they successfully performed this experiment, and they were successful in determining that microbial protein is actually a good technology which can have which has a very high efficiency of producing proteinaceous food, and it can be done on a large scale and for a long period of time. So I thought, why not implement this idea here on Earth, where we can produce the protein from this microbes for providing food to humans here on Earth. So now let's come on to the actual working of the project. How exactly are we going to produce food from these microbes? So first of all, what are the requirements? The requirements to produce this food. We will be requiring water, which will be electrolyzed into oxygen and hydrogen by the process of electrolysis. Then we'll also be requiring nitrogen from the atmosphere, certain trace elements such as sodium, potassium, sulfur, etc. And we'll also be requiring carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide will be sourced from the atmosphere by a technology called carbon capture technology. So it is a relatively new technology in which the air is directly absorbed by huge fans, and this air, from this air, carbon dioxide is separated, and this carbon dioxide can then be utilized for our project. So we have all the raw materials, that is hydrogen, the carbon dioxide from air, we have nitrogen, and we also need the hydrogen oxidizing bacteria or hydrogenomas, and these all will be combined in a bioreactor or fermenter. And when the microbes, they come in contact with this hydrogen, carbon dioxide and nitrogen, they will start producing their own food. So this bacteria will react with all these inorganic substances, and it will produce its own food. It is similar to how plants produce their food, except it does not need sunlight. And this proteinaceous food that will be produced by the bacteria. Next, it will also be a complete protein. So what is a complete protein? Complete protein is something which has all the 9 amino acids that our body requires, and it can only get from external food. So it is a complete protein, and all the 9 essential amino acids are present in this protein. And it will also be a sustainable food, as it does not pollute the environment by releasing additional greenhouse gases. Now, where can this protein be used? What are the applications of this protein? So first of all, it can be used in producing several products such as breads and other traditional products. It can also be used in producing meat alternatives, such as in lab grown meats. It can act as a nutrient medium for them. It can also be used in veggie burgers to increase their nutrition quantity. And it can also be used to produce several other daily use items such as ice creams, pastas, breads, etc. And it can also be used to feed animals. It can act as a fodder for animal, and thus the land which was earlier utilized to produce fodder for these animals can now be utilized to produce other substances in that place. So these are the applications of the product. Now let's come on to the utility. What are the utilities this product gives to the society? So the first utility is it is environmentally friendly and it is sustainable. It does not release any greenhouse gases, unlike the traditional agriculture system, and the resources it utilizes are very less as compared to other systems. So for example, if you produce a plant-based protein, it requires some resources, but our protein requires 1/100th of that required to produce plant-based proteins, and 1/10th as that required to produce the animal-based proteins that we consume. So it uses relatively less resources as compared to others, and it is therefore more environmentally friendly. And it can also be used in times of global catastrophes. Suppose there is a famine or drought in future, and there is a shortage of food. So this technology can be used during those times as it can be used as a backup, and it can provide food to those places which are affected by these catastrophes. So it can act as a food producer in times of emergencies as well. And next, coming on to the future directions and how we can improve this project. So the first thing I was planning to do is research into how this exact technology can be used to produce other plant and animal based products, such as honey, such as cellulose, lignin, rubber, gum, and salmons, etc., that we consume on a daily basis. How this technology can be used to produce those items. Next, I will also research into how all the plant-based products that we get, if that can be exercised from, can be produced using this kind of technology. And this technology was actually purposed to serve in outer space. So I will also research into how, if this technology can be used on Mars, where there is a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and if it can help the human settlement that will go to Mars to meet their nutritional requirements. And will also this microbial protein technology is a platform technology. So there are trillions of species, like trillion with a T, which can be utilized to produce this microbial protein, and there needs to be a lot of research done to pinpoint how exactly these can be useful. So I'll go into in depth of that and see how this microbes can help us produce all the items and products required to fulfill our nutritional and other demands that we'll face in the future. So this brings me to the end of my speech. I would like to thank all my family members, my teachers, and Young Tech Academy to provide this platform for to convey my ideas and thoughts. Thank you.